Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about the marketing campaign assignment and some good assignments and bad assignments, and showing you a little bit about the different elements that I would like you to put together. First, just going to start out with a design that I did a while back. It's a favorite for one of the school plays that we did, and you can see how you can take things like our here's the poster here, which has a headline and elements to it, and you can incorporate them into different elements, in this case like a t-shirt, but they are different, but yet they are still consistent with each other, using the same type, although because of the limitations of the medium, like the t-shirt is being silkscreen on a black t-shirt, and it's only going to be like one or two colors, you have to scale down your elements in order to and simplify it, and just make it work in general. As well, you can see the design is slightly different. The microphone has been moved in between these two words. It was better there rather than being an I. It didn't work. It didn't read like an I. And the client wanted this blue glow around it, but these are the things that you do. But again, it's consistent, but yet there is variation within that consistency, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how the way that I want you to do it, in case you're going to do it as a big marketing campaign for a big client, and how you would give it to the printer. So let's go to some examples here. This is a good example. And okay, so this guy, this one student, he had a collection of fans at home. It was kind of a thing, and so we ran with it. This is the ad, and you can see he's got his ad, he's got tickets, he's got his poster, and then he's got his fourth item, which is of his choice, and of course it was a fan, of course. You can see here in the poster that he's got a consistent headline that is consistent with each, and then sometimes, depending on the item, he's got this background fan, which works. Actually, I wish he put it everywhere. And then he's got this one photograph that is consistent. However, you can see, though, that for each configuration, like say the ad is horizontal, that he's just had to arrange it differently, but still using the same artwork, okay? I'm just going to show you, just if you create your items independently in Photoshop, you can design them together, but you just got to put them independently as different Photoshop files, and then you just arrange them differently depending on what you're going to do. Also, I just got to show you some tickets where this is how you're going to supply your tickets. It's going to be on an 8.5 by 11 sheet and you're going to print off try and get as many tickets to save money for your client. You want to get a minimum of 8, maybe 12 tickets on a page, and then you print them off in a way that you would be able just to cut them and then be able to and just sell your tickets. I'll show you a few things that you can do in order to make things consistent, and as well as some tricks in order to that you can get away with. Like, for example, this guy, he wouldn't have needed a border on the top and bottom had he just flipped this bottom row upside down, and then he could have had the green against the green. Because what you don't want to see, you don't want to see a seam here, because say a printer is going to be cutting these things maybe 500 at a time on a great big guillotine, and so these cut marks, these are cut marks right here where you're going to cut, and you need to give the printer a margin of error. So say he's cutting along this line and he's off by a little bit, he doesn't want to cut, like say, have a little bit of this image on this ticket, all right? And so there's just tricks, and I'll get more into that when we do the actual ticket. But what you don't want to see is a seam, and some people like this, they'll just do a border around it, and that's probably the simplest way of achieving no seam, but I'll show you some other examples. All right, and then this is how we want to provide the poster, because we want to provide that margin of error, so when the printer cuts about 500 at a time of these things, and there is and it's off, you're not going to see like the white edge of the border. So you need to provide a little bit of extra in case he cuts it off. You're never gonna know the difference. You're not gonna see the white paper. Okay. Let's go, and then this one, I don't care how you provide it to me. Most people just give it to me as a Photoshop file. I've just converted it as a PDF just so I can show you, but just give me like a sample of what it's going to look like for this one. Okay, I'm going to skip this one, although this one is a bad one because this is you can kind of see the seam in between the edge here, on the edge here. This one is correct. Sometimes this person, their extra item that they gave me, they decided to give me a website. You don't have to give me a working website. You can just give me a site that is just a mock-up, okay? Just so you give it to me as a Photoshop file if you want. That's okay. You don't have to give me a working website unless you want to. This is probably this is one of the nicest designs that I've probably received, except unfortunately, see, some of the marks are going to be for the design. You're going to take your own photography. You're going to do a nice big headline. It's for an event. However, I need you to give it to me in a way that when we give the posters to a printer, the printer is going to look at this and say, hey, this person knows what they're talking about. This person has been trained as a graphic designer. And so what we want to do is give that a margin of error. It's kind of, they've got some extra marks up here that don't belong. We want to give that printer a margin of error where if they cut off, they're not going to see the white. I see there is a margin of error, but there's not very much. So we just need to fix that. Let's go down. I just need to fix this. There we go, and down. The ad that you're going to provide, you can see how they've got some white around the ad here. That is no big deal because when, say for an ad, you are going to supply it to somebody and the person who's designing the magazine is going to take your artwork and they're just going to copy and paste it into their own magazine. So they're just going to have some type around here, like the rest of their magazine is going to be all around here. What this would have probably been better had they just done like a border around it, so that way you know what the edge of the magazine, the ad is. But this is I don't really care how, like if the paper is along this edge right here, or you give me extra, the person is just going to cut and paste your artwork into their magazine. So really, you're providing the artwork 3 different ways. The tickets are going to be provided one way, the poster is going to be provided one way, and the ad is provided another, because I'm showing you different ways to provide it to different people. This person did a website. It was a website design. They did all this photography, very nice photography, very nice lighting. This person was very talented. The tickets, very good job of not showing me a seam. So you're going to cut along here. They've got some nice margin of error here. They're going to cut along here. And then you see how they've just taken their artwork and it's just faded into the next ticket. So really, if the printer is off and he cuts down here by accident, you're never going to know the difference. So pretty good. Now, we're going to have this is a website, and we're going to, again, oops, they just provided to me as like a Photoshop file. That's fine. This is a different one. Again, the easiest way to provide tickets so you don't see a seam on your cut marks here is just to give some sort of border. This person did that. There's other ways of getting around it. I'll show you some other examples later on. It's a very nice design, but a little bit of forethought. This could have been, it could have been really good. And this one, it's kind of funny. They have a white border around their poster, which they didn't need to do. They could, it's fine, they can do a white poster. But if you're going to have a white border, technically you don't need to have trim marks, because you don't need to worry about any margin of errors. So I'll get into that. There's the ad. Again, you are taking your own photography, but of course you can build on your strengths. This person did their own. They did artwork instead. In fact, they did a little bit extra work here. They did a border around theirs. Oops. my scrolly wheel on my mouse. There's their t-shirt, but they did more work than they needed to because they decided to do a different picture for each, but that was just their own choice because they like to draw. They're very artsy, and they incorporated some Photoshop stuff into it. They did a big job. So it's a very good job. This one is kind of neat just because they did the headline as silhouettes, and they took these photos here. So that was kind of neat. This one, you can see how they kind of faded it off the edge. They could have just had black going off. In fact, had they lined it up where between tickets, where this line is seamlessly going into this line here, they could have just had black running off into black and had all these lines going on. And you can do that, and I'll show you an example later on that kind of does that. The poster, good poster. A website and more tickets. I'll cruise through some of these. Some good examples here. This is a great example. This is the one I was kind of leading up to. You can see how the background is different for each ticket. It's not a repeating background. Their background is consistent. They have their headline in the same spot, and their type. The type is pretty big, but the background is consistent. It does go from blue to black, from left to right, but they've got different. But when they cut them, you'll see that each ticket is going to be slightly different. That's totally okay, and it's actually quite creative. And you'll see too, this one is upside down on this side because they are creating a consistent blue to black going left to right, and they can achieve that on this one because it goes blue to black, except this is flipping upside down, and this is fading into this one. Technically, this is probably the best tickets I've ever received because of this forethought that they put into it. This is their poster. Again, all the same elements. They're just being arranged differently throughout each. And their items, they want to do some pins instead. And their ad. Okay, all very good. Just keeping on going. This person accidentally gave me, is very good, but they accidentally gave me registration marks on the ad. They don't need to do that because the magazine person is just going to cut and paste your artwork and put it into theirs. You don't need to do that. Whereas in the poster, you're going to, it's going to be cut, the edges are going to be cut by the printer in mass. So you need to provide those bleed marks, okay? And these are the extra items that they did. They did a bunch. Now these tickets are actually quite good because, I'll just zoom in on them. Okay, so first off, you've got this black border here, and so there's no seam here. But if you think about it, this ticket has a white bottom and a gray top, if you look at the way that they're configured. And so what they did is they have a white here and gray, and they got rid of the seam here. Now if they have, and they flipped this ticket, so its white bottom just kind of flows and seamlessly into this ticket. And then this flips because the tops butt up against each other and the bottoms butt up against each other. And so that is some huge forethought that got put into this. And it works so cleverly because when they cut them out, all the tickets are going to look the same. They're going to have the white bottom with a gray top and black left and black sides. So it all works very good. Very, very clever. These students were listening to my lessons. Let's continue on. I think, is that it? Okay, that's it. Okay, so let's show you some bad ones. And the bad ones are mostly going to be surrounding production and effort and probably about the tickets here. This one, nice photo, but boy, they just didn't pull it off. Number one, they haven't done anything about like printer cut marks or anything for the poster. The headline, it just is boring. It just makes me not want to. It's not a very exciting thing like a Relay for Life. it needs to generate excitement, and this is not generating excitement. As well, the one interesting thing about this is the photograph. It's a very nice photo, except they are covering it up here, so it's too bad. It would have been so much better to have like maybe a little bit of your type over here instead and have a nice big fun headline. But this person did this in what, like 10 minutes. Again, with the ad, it's better than the poster, but pretty boring. I'm not sure why I have this one in the bad section, other than I can think of, like, I don't know, if the person tucks in their shirt, they're never going to see that. So you just got to think of like what the end result is going to look like. This one here is just poorly executed. I think just this one is just lack of effort. It's boring. Somebody could do this in like 10 minutes. As well as they did cut marks here. Like I know to cut mark here, cut there, but I don't know which way to cut it here. And they've got all these extra lines in. So the person just didn't go the extra mile. As well, there's no bleed for in case, like say here, this is a good example. If the printer is off, here you're gonna see maybe some white line on here, and you don't want to see that. As well as like it just looks like their stuff doesn't line up properly. Just details. This one, look at the registration or the cut marks here. It's they're going to cut along there and cut into the type here, and this doesn't line up with this at all. And they're going to cut into the UPC code. So that doesn't. This person didn't know what they were doing. As well, this picture kind of butts up against this picture. So really, even though they tried to supply a border, and we'll take a look at this one. If the printer is off and they didn't supply cut marks here, but if there was there and the printer was off, you would see some of this picture in this one, or vice versa. So you just can't have that. Let's go to, and this one is here. Not sure if it's the wrong size. They took a picture off of social media and they just slapped something together. And look at the Photoshop cropping here. Like this person is in my grade 12 class and they do Photoshop cropping like that. It just makes me angry. This one, again, just lack of effort. Technically, they handed it in the right way. I think I probably helped them with that. But the weight, like your headline needs to be nice and big. Put a little bit of effort into jazzing that up a little bit. The headline is the same weight as this. In fact, I almost read this a little bit better than I read that because of the font. So it's I'm just asking for a little bit of effort into some design sense. This one would have been so much better. These are tickets, no cut marks for the tickets. But as well as when you're cutting along here, if they're off, you're going to see a little bit of, you can see a little bit of white in this ticket or a little bit of dark in this ticket. But it could have been so easily remedied if they would have taken this half, flipped it upside down, and then it would have faded from black to white to black again. Okay, so that just would have been could have very easily been remedied. This one, there's no saving this person because they needed to have a white border or some sort of border around here to save that. The tickets are kind of going off the edge of the page. There's no cut marks going up and down or anything. As well, there's no way that this is going to seamlessly go into this because it's on an angle. So there's just, and this blue is hard to read against the green. There's just so many wrong things about this. This one, although they handed in the poster correctly, because I probably helped them, this one would have been a heck of a lot better had they just put speed, bump, and 3D on 3 lines. And that way they could have just made it a lot bigger. So just speed, bump, 3D, and then have this type in white and maybe done a little bit more photography. But it's just, you get out of the project what you put into the project. This one, the no marks, no cut marks, and I see a seam. But really it's there just because, this is the Relay for Life one. That's completely different. They didn't, okay. You can just make your own assessment about that. So that's basically, that's, you can see the good, you see the bad. Now actually, now that I've shown you what about that, just go back to this one real quick. You'll notice here the play posters are printed differently because because they just get printed off an 8.5 or sorry 11 by 17 paper off of a color photocopier. So that's why I put a white border around here, because the color copier doesn't print to the edge. Okay, so I just kind of make a border around it anyways, because the printer just can't do it. I'm dealing with the technical abilities of what I'm printing it on. But I'm purposely having you on these guys. Let's just go to the good one again. There we go. On these guys, when you go to the posters, I know that we're just pretending that we're sending it to a printer who is going to print them on 11 by 17 on a bigger sheet and then cutting them down to 11 by 17. So we're pretending that these are going to be printed by a professional printer on a big printer, okay? So that's why we're doing that. Okay, that's great. Hope you guys are doing well. Have a good day.